Cool, so this is the NWC Show, episode 58, and if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hey, Anthony from Rated R for Rasslin. I was on episode 10 of the NWC Show. Now I'm on episode, I believe this is 67?
58, man. So
58,
close enough.
sorry, 58. There you go.
It's my accent, but man, thanks for taking the time out of your day to come on. Obviously, time difference, all that kind of stuff. The fun things. We've done a ton of live streams on your channel, on SCW Steve's channel, with retro reviews, and it's just been a bunch of fun over the past 3 months or something. We kind of
something like that. We've done a lot. We've done a lot of live streams, a lot of predictions, and a lot of ranting on WWE and other stuff like that. Yeah,
mostly my part ranting.
Yeah.
You can say it was mostly me shouting about it. It's fine, but man, let's say thanks for being on the show. So
yeah, of course.
There's no questions. We've done the get to know you kind of podcast before, so this is just let's shout about wrestling because it can be a wee bit of a state from now. So I'll just go into the first thing I want to ask you is what you making about Daniel Bryan and CM Punk possibly going to AEW. This is making me I seen one of your videos the other day. It was like put a tinfoil hat on. Is AEW actually working with WWE? And now I'm like, this could actually possibly be AEW working with WWE because Disney makes sense.
It's rough, right? So like what you referred to, I put the tinfoil hat because it was about Malachi Black, right? So he shows up in AEW and I'm thinking to myself, okay, they just signed Zelina Vega back in WWE after all that unionization talk, the Twitch stuff, all that stuff. He goes over there for some clerical error of not changing his contract from 30-day non-compete to a 60-day non-compete or 90-day. I can't believe it. I just there's something so strange about that. Like you've never heard them do that before. And it's supposedly they reach out to Murphy afterwards to try to find out if they, to change his or whatever. To me, I felt like they're letting him go over there to get more steam and heat on him so that eventually he can make a comeback and be a bigger star. Now, when it comes to Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, that's a whole different thing. CM Punk is an interesting one because is he going to be a guy that's there for a while, or is he going to be like all these other guys that kind of show up, disappear? Because AEW has a massive roster for such little TV time that they actually have. I feel like they have more on-screen talent right now in the short amount of time they've been around than WWE currently has on their television program. Just on-screen people. They just have a ton. Daniel Bryan is huge. I can't see WWE legitimately letting go of Daniel Bryan in any way, shape, or form. I think if he's there, that's the guy that kind of tells you, put the tinfoil hat back on. He is kind of like the guy who is like, he's like the mole inside of AEW. Like he's getting info or whatever, but I think they have a working relationship some way. There has to be for them to lose out on Daniel Bryan because he wants to wrestle in other places while being there. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but all the rumors line up that he's going there. So is CM Punk. I just want to see, I'm interested to see, will these guys be there for the long term and on like consecutive shows in a row, like for a while, or will they be there for like a month, leave for a while and then come back and then leave and come back?
Man, definitely. So we're about the same age. We'll remember the WCW mistakes that we've seen them making.
Yes.
I feel like AEW are making the same thing. So sometimes I call it Tony Khan's toy box because it does feel like he's just collecting wrestlers at this point. Yes. But he is really making the roster get older. And like you've got Christian, Matt Hardy, Big Show, Sting, Mark Henry, Chris Jericho. It's just like Kenny Omega, he's in his mid-30s. It's just like, you're kind of making this a little bit more older. And if they bring in CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, obviously there's a lot of matches that I would like to see.
Yep.
But it does feel like you're making the exact same. Like that's like Scott Hall, Kevin Nash coming over into it. Like, who's going to be the Hogan? What, Lesnar comes in or Cena or something like that? It's like you're just kind of like, you're just making this just the exact same thing. The mistakes that WCW made, you're making the same things by just piling money into it. And plus, Vince might just be like, you know what? Let Daniel Bryan go because he's going to get 10 million from Tony Khan, but he's led his article in Forbes, which is like, my dad gave me some money. And then it's like, just send it over, make it non-viable, and that'll do. But it's a fun time to be a wrestling fan to see where it's gone. But I do feel like it feels a lot like WCW's 3.0, 4.0, depending how you look at it. You get TNA, Impact.
Yeah.
So it's So it feels like for me.
No, I agree with you. It does feel that way now. Like the only way they can get past that, because it feels kind of like it feels exactly like what TNA was doing, right? Bringing in these guys who are they have the name value, they've been released or they've been out. It's gonna be interesting because like I heard that Daniel Bryan was like, I want to work in Japan and other places, but get paid around the same money. So it's got to be a lot of money AEW is going to pay him if that's the case. Or are they backing up the Brinks truck for every single guy they bring in? Like, how much is Christian making? Is he making what he was going to make in WWE? That's interesting to see because then that's the WCW route where they're just overpaying these guys and they're not even going to be there exclusively. Like, I don't think Christian's exclusively an AEW guy. I think he's there, but he can also work in other spots like a lot of these other guys can. Like Daniel Bryan, if he shows up, he's going to work in New Japan. He's going to work in Ring of Honor and probably go to Impact and wrestle those guys. Now, can they, like, I think they can avoid that whole, like, the downfall of WCW and TNA is by not having these guys be their main attractions. I mean, not main attractions, I'm sorry, but main eventers, like, consistently. Like, how they always had WCW, the older guys, the old guard, as the main event for every single show, and the younger guys never really got that spot. TNA, kind of similar. They brought in Hogan, they brought in those guys, those ex-WWE guys, ex-WCW guys, and they were taking up the spots for everybody else. So if AEW is smart enough, they won't spend that much money on these guys, and they won't put them at the forefront of every single show consistently because it hurts everybody else around them.
Definitely, man. I think it's just, I don't know. I do like AEW. Always people call me a hyper hater for it, but for some reason, it's just when it's bad, it's like really, really bad. Like Christian done something with Kenny Omega, and then just never came back to that. But then it's like in 2 years' time, they'll bring it back up, and it'll be like, you need to remember this one episode of Dynamite, and we spoke about it on Dark on the YouTube channel, and you're like, I've not got time for this. Like, come on, like, what do you want me to do? I don't have enough time to watch normal, like, mainstream wrestling. Would then go watch, like, I don't know. I feel AEW's trying to do too much at once, and bringing in, like, making that older side talent. Like, you bring in CM Punk, he needs to be a main eventer. You can't have him doing what Christian's doing, which is, I feel so bad for Christian. It's like everywhere he's went, everybody's just like, it's no Edge, but
it's interesting because Christian's like just rejuvenating a rivalry that's happened, you know, that's 20 years in the old. So that's the problem with Christian. He comes in, like, you're right, he did the Omega spot and you felt like Omega was gonna, now it seems like where they're headed is that eventually it's gonna be Christian versus Jungle Boy or something like that, maybe after the whole Matt Hardy stuff. But you're right though, CM Punk shows up, the guy's gotta be a main eventer, him and Daniel Bryan, right? Because like, what else are you bringing him in for? But again, if they are, do they stay there for a while? Because like you were saying, they're gonna disappear and then drop the storyline, and 2 years later kind of bring it up. Oh, you remember when he first debuted and he had this little like interaction with Kenny Omega? Okay, now we're gonna have the title match and everything else afterwards. They are trying to do a little bit too much. I equate it to kind of putting 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, you know, like that, like just putting way too much in what they got. The limited amount, now they're getting a second show and everybody's like, oh, they're gonna have a second show. It's a 1-hour show at 10 p.m. in the States on a Friday night. The ratings are not going to be that great for that show. It's kind of just there as like an extra place. The YouTube shows, they get a third or even less of a fraction of that of the main Dynamite viewership. It's just a lot for not much substance to it. And it's like, what do you do with all these guys? I mean, they literally have everybody. I started off my Dynamite review this week with like AEW signing everybody and their mother. Like they have literally everybody in that promotion. It's wild. I don't know what they're gonna do with it.
When I look at AEW's, I know you'll get this reference. It's Buff Bagwell when his mother was in WWE. I'm what WCW. But I was like, why? Like, there's so many. Like, there's, it's great talent, right? But it's just like I say, it feels like Tony Khan's just going, you know what, I'm going to get like this guy because I like him. Yeah. And then it's like Pokemon cards, isn't it? You've got all the new ones, and then like you get like your shinies, which is like Sting, Mark Henry, Big Show, Christian. It's like, oh, I need to collect these ones as well. And it's just put like the talent that he has just day one. You had what, Jericho, Cody Rhodes, Omega, Young Bucks. It's just a ton of talent. And then it's went, oh, you know what, we're going to add in Sting, who shouldn't have done that thing with Orange Cassidy, by the way. It's making me, I'm a huge Sting fan. Like, I'm massive, but it's making me start to know like Sting, which I didn't think would ever happen. You know, given what he done in Impact, TNA, whatever you want to call them. And then now I'm like, why are you ruining this guy for me? But I don't know, man. I feel like they're doing like, so, like try to do like ECW wrestling style. They're trying to do like Japan and as well. Like when it's like, oh, there's like a million people watching it. It's like, but WWE's getting like every week they're getting like 4 or 5 million people just in America alone watching Raw and SmackDown. Then you've got add on NXT, NXT UK, then the rest of the world. AEW isn't really that known outside America yet. Here in the UK, it's on at like 1 o'clock in the morning on a channel that you don't really watch unless you sign up for like a player, like an online subscription thing for this channel. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. You put an email address in. We need to pay a TV license here. So if you do that, they'll come to your door.
It's a lot of work for nothing. Yeah.
And then it's a shit show, and you're like, that's just fucking. No, all the time. Sometimes it is good before people start shouting at me. I just feel like it's just, like you said, it's like they're trying to do so much, and they're, I don't know, I don't want to say failing because it sounds really bad, but like they're just, it's as if they're trying to please everybody at the exact same time. And
yes, I was gonna say that, like they're catering to too many people. Like they're trying to cater to like the guys who like New Japan, the guys who like the WWE guys who like WWE but are tired of it right now, and so they're just trying to cater to too many people. Now they pop a million rating, it's a big deal. A sucky Monday Night Raw gets like a 1.3, 1.4, and that's a bad show. So they'll never be able to compete on that level. I think they're just trying to do too much in a short amount of time. They need to kind of just spread things out a little bit. Like Chris Jericho is still one of the main guys on the show. And Chris Jericho's, I mean, tremendous, absolutely super entertaining and everything like that. But he's still, since day one of your main guys on the show. And you've brought in guy after guy after guy. Mark Henry made a big deal about Mark Henry, made a big deal about Big Show. You don't even see them. I think they do commentary on the YouTube shows. They're talking about in-ring returns. It's a lot of guys and like a lot of things you're throwing out there. And people tend to forget about. It's similar to I equate it to their matches. An AEW match has 1,000,001 moves in it. You really only remember kind of 1 or 2 and how the match ended. Now you have 1,000,001 guys in there now on the roster, and you only really remember kind of like 1 or 2 or 3 of them, and just kind of like what's happening now because they so many get lost. I mean, we had Pac and Phoenix gone for weeks, and now they're back. Now they're beefing with Andrade. You have so many other things that go on. Like Lance Archer's one of those guys who's disappeared and come back. Now he's IWGP United States champion. Sean Spears, before the Pinnacle, was the disappearing man of AEW. Had so many different runs and stops and goes. Scorpio Sky the same way. You just got a lot of guys like that who just kind of disappear. You don't see them for a while, and then they come back. And it's pretty much, I don't know. It's just too much for what they're doing. I know they have 4. They're gonna have 4 shows. 2 of them really only matter. Dark and Dark Elevation, I'm sorry, aren't like that important in the grand scheme of things.
Man, but those count for those win-losses. There's people in there where like 89 wins, but they're all stunned. I tried to watch an AEW Dark because I had Sting and Darby Allin at the end of it. I have 2 of my favourite guys at the minute.
Yep.
It was a struggle. Like it was, some people were like, why are you even in there? Like this is like indie wrestling. Like they're like, you go to like a show, it's got like 6 people at it. There's like 1 guy shouting. I mean, it's like this is awkward.
It's rough, right? So like when it comes to Dark and Dark Elevation, my problem with those 2 shows is like I wouldn't put my main guys on that show. Plus, I brought this up before. The fact that they have those guys winning all their matches there, and then all of a sudden they're on Dynamite as #1 contenders for a title, I think it's a little bit of a kind of it's a weird thing because you're like, why is this guy at the top of the rankings? Then you got to kind of look back. Oh, he won all these matches on Dark and Dark Elevation. It's like, well, I didn't watch it, so I'm not really invested in him being the #1 contender unless you go back and watch it. Like I said, let's say Dynamite gets 1 million people. Dark and Dark Elevation over a course of time on YouTube get 300,000-400,000, so almost half of the viewership. And then you're kind of just getting guys like you had Double or Nothing, you had the triple threat Kenny, Orange Cassidy, and Pac. Those guys, Pac and Orange Cassidy, they got all their wins on Dark pretty much, and that's how they were able to get to that spot. For me, it's a little bit of it's a weird setup they got going on. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna go to the shows that they're having over here in the East Coast. I already got my tickets. I like AEW. I think it's fun TV to watch. They just do things that for me, WWE does the same stuff, but they get a ton of crap for it. But the fact that AEW is like new shiny toy and it's kind of like the wrestling fans company, they do some of the same things and they don't get called out for it. And I just think that's like being biased. That, you know, you're seeing AEW do the same mistakes WWE does, and you complain about it, but when AEW does it, you don't really care. And when it comes to AEW and the way it's being run by Tony Khan, it kind of feels like if me or you had a wrestling company, I was like, I want to get this guy, I like that guy, I like that guy, I like that guy.
Man, if I had his money, I'd be doing the exact same thing. I'd be like, you know what, we're going to get Sting, we're going to bring back Mr. Perfect, we're going to like just start spending money wherever I can. But like you say, that I love AEW. I think it's going to be the future of wrestling if they do it right. But it does feel like you say, WWE can do the exact same thing AEW does, but WWE will be terrible for it.
Yeah.
And then AEW, like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot. If it was me going in, I'd be like, right, get rid of the YouTube shows. Just put clips up there. Like, if you're going to have a YouTube show, cool, because that's obviously a lot of people like watching it there. But just keep it for like job guys. Like, let a job guy do what. It doesn't matter. It has to be on the main show for the wins and losses, or just scrap wins and losses. Cause
or just put like up and coming guys there, like up and coming tag teams. That's how they kind of start building their way up. Or just don't have like Pac win all his matches on Dark and Dark Elevation, and then be at like one of your major pay-per-views as the number one contender. It's Pac. He's one of your main guys. He shouldn't be on a YouTube show. He should be on network television. And if he's not there because you don't have time because your roster is so big, you can put him on there, but don't make it where he's like exclusively on there. And then when he shows up as number one contender, a lot of people are just kind of like, how the hell did he leapfrog Adam Page, who's been on Dynamite 17 weeks in a row, winning all his matches, loses one, and then the guy from Dark just completely leapfrogs him?
I think it's just confusing as well. Like story-wise, for me, for WWE's always got, if you miss every show at the pay-per-view, they've got that little package made up. It tells you everything. You can go in invested in who the good guy and the bad guy is. Good women, bad women, whatever you want to call it. But AEW is like, well, you have to go watch like fucking Elite on the Side or whatever it's called on like this YouTube channel, and you're like, I've not got enough time. Like, I'm literally just need to watch this show. I've not got time to go like get a fucking pinpoint story out. It happened like in Japan, this guy gave this guy a bad look, and then in Mexico they said a bad word to each other, and now 6 years later they're here doing this, and you're like, can we not just tell a simple good guy, bad guy story? Try and overcomplicate it, but
keep it concise, like as for some point.
Just tell me the bullet points. I don't care about whatever. It's like when I'm talking to my fiance, I'm like, just come on, quickly get it done. Tell me, I want to go do something else, because I don't need, you know, women or men, whatever. Some people just tell stories that are like so long. You're like, just come on, bullet point this. This will be good. But I'm not. I don't know if the AEW comes here to Glasgow, I'll go see it. But there's a lot of stuff that they can fix. I think their roster's going to end up being too full of guys like Christian, Matt Hardy, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sting, pure top heavy. Why did they put Sting with Darby Allin? Like, they've got face paint. Let's just put them together. It's like, there's other people you could get. Then like Nick Cage just came in. Nick Gage, whatever he's called. It's like, why is he in there to go against Chris Jericho?
I think the end thing for them is like Nick Gage versus Moxley, because like if you watch Dark Side of the Ring, because I've never seen Nick Gage before Dark Side of the Ring, right? That just recently came out, and I got to see the craziness that is Nick Gage and stuff like that, and he's from the same state as me, so it's kind of interesting to know that. But I think the end result is just want to get Moxley versus Gage. Also, I mean, you bring in guys like that, like just for one-offs and stuff like that, it doesn't have the same effect. It's like for one quick pop. But you have so many guys that are just there, not doing anything, and you can't really build a story. Now, I remember I was doing a live stream, and Dan from DWE, shout out to Dan, he said that he likes the fact that the roster's so big because it feels like, you know, it's always fresh because you're swapping us. Now, it's going to take like insane management skills to be able to manage all those moving pieces so that people have time to build a story around them so that you get invested in it. And it's not just, CM Punk's going to take on this guy. That's a cool match, I guess. And then that's it, right? And then the guys disappear after that. It's tough to get. Now, you have those constants in AEW have been Moxley, Jericho, MJF, all the elite guys. It's pretty much it. Everybody else has been kind of there, gone. I'll be interested to see how Malachi Black and Andrade, because remember, we're getting Malachi versus Cody already. That's in 2 weeks. It's like, it's going to happen already. So I don't know if they kind of jump the gun on that because they feel like they don't have that much time to do it. And they kind of want to get it out there. Because are you really invested in Malachi versus Cody? Because I still don't understand as to why they're feuding with each other. It kind of just seems random. And there's really 1 week of a debut. He attacks Arn, and then the next week is the brawl, and then 2 weeks after that is the fight. And then what do you get after that?
And I think it's just they have different colours of suits on. That's one's got white. Cody's got the white suit.
Pretty much, right?
Malachi's got the black suit, and he's like, I don't like white suits. I don't like black suits.
Yeah.
That's it. Feud. See, that's simple booking, but like you said, it's this the skill you must have, like just computers fill with like where everything's going. Like, somebody help me with this, because I get confused. Like, I like watching AEW. It's probably my favourite part of the week to watch it because it's just fun wrestling to watch. Again, I would slow the pace down of it because sometimes you're like Darby Allin, like, why are you doing that on like a random show on a Wednesday? Like, just calm down. You know what I mean? Like, set it out. Like, you know your crowd. You're not getting that put over on network TV. But I don't know. I think it's got a lot to learn, and I think they're just pushing it a little bit too fast at the minute. But I don't know.
If it does feel like that, like I totally understand what you're saying. Now, cheap plug real quick, right? So I have one video I made like 8 months ago. It's called "Why AEW is Better Than WWE," and I actually thought it at the time. Then I came out with one a couple months ago called "The Problem with AEW," and kind of just not trashing it, but critiquing the issues that they have that nobody seems to bring up that much because everybody's just so like, I love AEW and this and that. Which AEW, like I said, we've been saying it's good stuff. It's fun. It's probably the most unpredictable wrestling that you can watch mainstream, because WWE is very predictable. But you have to look at it two ways. Like, what do they do good? What do they do bad? What do they got to keep doing good? And what do they got to stop doing that's bad? So like I said, the roster's huge. The factions, there's just too many of them. And it's not even the problem that there's too many factions, because in Japan they have a lot of factions, but people need more in those factions. And this one, like the Factory, is one of the most useless factions. Nightmare Family is another useless faction. It's just faction after faction after faction after faction for no reason. And the only factions that ever really mean anything on the show are the Elite, the Pinnacle, and the Inner Circle. Other than that, everybody else is kind of just there. They have issues, same as WWE, and they have things that they succeed at and that, you know, they're really good at, just like WWE has certain things like that. It's kind of, you know, one thing is one thing is the other, but you can't be biased when it comes to it. Like, I've gotten comments in the comment section below where like people are like, you're AEW hater, and they'll chant AEW like 27,000 times, like down the comment section. It's stuff like that. It's fun, but you know, you can't be biased when it comes to those type of things. Like, if you're gonna hate WWE for doing something and the AEW does it, you gotta hate AEW for doing it too.
Definitely. The factions thing, it's the story's right there. Get rid of all the Factory and all the pish that nobody cares about, and just have the Elite be good guys, put them over as the good AEW guys, and have all the old WWE guys, or Christian, Matt Hardy, Christian, all these guys for WWE, just remake the NWO story. You've pretty much got it there. You've got a bunch of old guys that you can make the young guys go even more. Could make Kenny Omega literally known worldwide, like a Roman Reigns level name. But no, they want to do the Factory. It's like, what's the Factory got to do with it? But it doesn't. No, and it does.
Oh, seem to have cut out. Am I here by myself? Hey.
Sorry, man, that was my phone for some reason. What I'm recording on, just for some reason, just decided to turn off. But fun part of live streaming.
Yeah.
I'm not used to hosting it, and also, as everybody knows who watches this podcast, it's no professional at all. I'm sure you know that as well. But it's a weird, like, the factions are just far too much, and it doesn't translate to everywhere. Like, the Japanese style of wrestling is big in Japan. It doesn't translate to America or UK, Europe. WWE gets that right. It's something they get right. They're global. They can go anywhere and they'll sell tickets. AEW, I'm still like, I don't know if they're going to be able to sell out a good stadium in the UK, or they're going to go to somewhere in Germany, sell it somewhere. I don't know yet. I need to wait and see how it goes. But saying that, WWE, they've already sold it. The UK show is coming back here, so it's
Well, I mean, because it's like WWE is very mainstream, and their style, WWE style, like, you know, as people say, it's very just like, it's just there, right? It's not anything super flashy about it. It's just very simple. And they don't do too much depending on, like, you know, the match type that it is. But the thing is, like, I was talking to my cousin about AEW. Now they're coming to New York. They're coming to Queens, New York. They're not playing Madison Square Garden, which is the most famous arena. They can't get in there yet that I know of. Now, you got to look at it this way too. When it comes to the States and how touring works in the States, when they start getting into these arenas that professional teams play in, like the professional basketball teams, professional hockey teams, they have the clout to be able to get into those arenas. As of right now, once they start selling out the Staples Center in Los Angeles, the United Center in Chicago, American Airlines in either Orlando or in Dallas, those are the shows that you're gonna see once they start selling out, getting those arenas. They're big time. Like once they start getting those arenas, they are big time. Hopefully they get to that spot, because it'll be interesting how they'll compete with WWE in terms of booking those shows. Like, oh, we're going to try to get the United Center in Chicago. Oh no, WWE's got it then, or reverse, AEW's got it. Now we can't book it. We have to book it 3 weeks later and stuff like that. Once they start getting to those arenas, like the Garden and those arenas around Boston Garden, the TD Garden in Boston, those big arenas, that's where, things are going to get kind of spicy in terms of how big the company actually gets at that point.
Definitely, man. I think that AEW is the future. They've got a long way to go, a long way to learn as well. We can see they're obviously making kind of mistakes, but it's probably the most fun part of wrestling in a week. It's just, like you said, it's unpredictable. The roster's a little bit too big, too many factions. You can kind of see there's making problems, but if this is the biggest problem that they've got too many good talent. They're not really going to...
It's a good problem to have, yeah.
Yeah, like, you can be like, storylines are pretty... confusing, but it is a fun show. But we've moaned about AEW enough, man, so I need to get your thoughts on WWE bringing back Goldberg, John Cena. It was just like, oh no, what, crowds are back, let's get all these guys back in. Like, we need the cheap money, come on.
Well, it's funny, right? So like, I'm currently working on a video for my channel. It's the problem WWE has with the Roman Reigns. Now, that sounds kind of interesting, right? Like, what problem could they have? Roman Reigns is the biggest thing. Arguably, the biggest thing right now in pro wrestling is Roman Reigns, arguably. But the problem is they haven't built anybody. Now, they took the whole Thunderdome era and they never really built anybody. They got blessed with Roman Reigns coming back as a heel. And they got, they had Drew McIntyre, but he was there for a while. I mean, he started the pandemic era and kind of ended it, still at the top of the card for the most part. But they never built anybody. So I don't blame them for going for the cheap, like John Cena pop. And I thought it was going to be Brock Lesnar, but it ended up being Goldberg. I don't blame them for it. I do blame them for not building people to get to that level where they don't have to go outside the roster to get those guys. Now, when it comes to that video I'm making about Roman Reigns, it's basically Roman Reigns is the best thing they got going, but it's also the worst thing they have, because they have nobody that's even close to being believable, built, or at the level of Roman Reigns to actually dethrone him and take the title off of him. Even when he took on Edge, you didn't think Edge was really gonna win it. I mean, in the end, you're kind of like, what's the, like, if you look at it like logically, why would Edge win it? If Roman's too good. There's really nobody there. Even in the top of your head, like, is John Cena really the guy? Who knows? But is it gonna be a case where Roman is champion, he runs through the roster on the smaller pay-per-views, and then he gets a part-timer on the bigger pay-per-views? Is that the problem they're going to run into? So I don't blame them for doing it. They themselves have not built anybody to get to that level. Whether it's the talent's fault or WWE's fault, that remains to be seen. But I don't blame them. But I'm not a huge fan of Goldberg. I was in the 90s. I was upset when he beat Hogan, to be honest with you, for the WCW Championship in the Georgia Dome. I was upset because I was always a Hogan guy. But I don't blame them, but I wish it was Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar Bobby Lashley is the matchup we've been wanting for years now. And I don't think it's going to be a bad match. It should be quick, under 10 minutes. And John Cena, I mean, he still draws. He still gets a massive pop. He still sells a ton of merchandise. And they've already announced the Summer of Cena. All his shows are booked already for live shows and televised shows. It's going to be fun stuff with them two on the mic against each other. But like I said, I don't blame him for doing it.
Yeah, man, I'm actually working on a video similar. It's for my Change My Mind kind of series, and it's why Roman Reigns is the worst thing in WWE. Know that he's terrible. That's obviously a clickbait headline, but it's because there's nobody who's believably going to beat this guy. Like, he's the biggest guy in wrestling, WWE. The most known guy in professional wrestling at the minute, because casual fans don't know who Jay White is, no matter what.
Yeah.
People that wrestling fans sit and say, oh, it's really a bit... Nobody cares. Like, outside wrestling fans, nobody cares who Jay White is, or Kenny Omega, or where John Moxley, who my fiance still calls him Dean Ambrose, and I'm like, I've told you 50 times.
So does mine. My wife calls him Dean Ambrose still too.
You're like, I've literally said to you, I call him... I say his name different all the time. The announcer has said it. Dean Ambrose? No, that's not what I'm saying. But anyway, it's just like Roman, there's nobody, like Cesaro went up against him. That was an opportunity to do something, maybe build Cesaro a little bit, and I've just went, nah, let's just kick him back down. Roman Reigns was just, he's too big for WWE. It's a weird thing to say, like like if they let him just full pelt go, he could be the next Hogan, Cena, Rock, Austin. I think they're like, we need to watch what we're doing, try and get somebody to build up, and that's why they've brought back people like Cena. You'll probably see The Rock come back to go against him at some point. You'll see maybe Lesnar again for however many times that would have been. Maybe Goldberg goes there and gets beat up again for no reason.
That's the problem. Is like, let's take it back to our era, right? So when we were growing up, if the Attitude Era didn't have that amazing locker room, it would have been literally like one guy control. Like Austin would have been the top guy for like the held the championship forever because nobody would have been able to beat him. But they had so many other guys to drop that title to. I mean, look at the Attitude Era. That title swapped like thousands of times back and forth. It was like a merry-go-round. It was Triple H, Austin, Rock, Angle, Jericho, Undertaker. Somebody else, and Booker T, all those guys. Like it just kept swapping back and forth between these guys because they had the guys that were built up, believable to beat each other. Right now, I mean, like you said, he's just the one man, and he's the best thing going, and nobody's hating on that fact. We're just it's WWE's fault, and I guess it's a lack of confidence in the roster. They never built anybody to kind of take it. I mean, to be honest with you, Drew McIntyre was the only guy that I would see as believable as taking it from him, because remember the Survivor Series build up, for champion versus champion. I thought that was like Roman's best feud so far was him versus Drew McIntyre, and it wasn't even that much of a build, but it was so well done that I think that should be the main event for this upcoming WrestleMania.
Man, I think that would be a cool main event, but I think Drew needs to get him against Jinder having a really good feud. They'll know they're having it's like a motorbike and a fake sword. Drew's rabbling about Scottish stuff. It doesn't even make sense. It's not even part of our history. But they need to just ditch the over Scottishness stuff because it doesn't make any sense, and just have him be a badass wrestler, have a cool couple of feuds. He needs to stay out that main event picture for at least a year or something, because he's, for some reason, his championship run, just like Rhea Ripley's, was so shit. Because I made a video saying WWE's poor fumbled Rhea Ripley's championship run.
Yep.
It was 10 matches when I made my video. I think she's had 13 matches or 14 matches now. There would have been 13 of them have been with either Charlotte or Asuka. What they've contained in the matches somehow. When I done my video, it was 10. 9 of them was with Charlotte and Asuka. That could have been tag team, whatever. They've been in the match. One of them was Nikki Cross. And I was like, this is just since she's won the belt, she's just said the same people. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's a thing that WWE does. You know what we're going to do? The same thing over and over again until people utterly hate it, and then we'll change maybe after the 10th time that happens.
And super repetitive, right? Like I said, a Monday Night Raw, like a Thunderdome Monday Night Raw, it was like Groundhog's Day. Like if you saw one episode of Monday Night Raw and you fast forward 5 months later, it was pretty much the same episode again. It's just a repetitious thing. And like you said, they'll do it until the wheels fall off and everybody hates it, and then they'll take it away for a month or two and then probably bring it back. And people start kind of forget about it. But that's the difference between AEW and WWE. AEW is extremely fun, unpredictable, and it's not really repetitive, right? It feels fresh for the most part, all of it. WWE's on the opposite end of that. They feel very, very stale at times. And if it wasn't for Roman, I think WWE will be in a much worse spot right now.
Definitely, man. I think that whole SmackDown locker room is insanely talented. There's just, obviously Raw's talented as well, but SmackDown's got a ton of talent. And then all of that talent, you're like, Roman Reigns is on SmackDown. Name a casual fan, name somebody else on that roster that they're going to be like, that's a really good guy. It's no, just Roman Reigns is that's it, because everybody just blends in. There's no really anybody there. They need to change the Nikki Cross, Nikki Ash, whatever shit. When she won the belt, somebody was like, "Oh, but should be happy because she's Scottish?" And that makes no sense at all. Why the fuck is she in a cape? That makes no sense. If she started around the city centre in Glasgow like that, she'd probably get picked up by the police. But people would be calling her names and stuff. But like, why she got the belt? She's got it for a week. Like, she's going to lose it this Monday, or she's going to hold it to Survivor Series, and like nobody believes that she's going to be the champion. Why did Charlotte win the belt then? If you're going to give it to, it's like WWE's form of like a surprise, wasn't it? Like, you know what? It's like opening a birthday present and getting a shitter toy than the toy that you didn't want that you already got. You're like, oh, it was good, wasn't it? Aye. Like, nobody really cares. Like, I get what they're doing, right? And then when people go, but she came up with the character herself. Sometimes it's okay to say that that's a shit idea. Like, you shouldn't be wearing a cape. It's 2021. Patch the capes.
I mean, we've seen the concept before, right? Like, we've seen it with Rosie, the superhero in training. We've seen it with Molly Holly. We've seen it with the Hurricane. It's gotten over, right? Like, it's worked. But this one doesn't seem like, she doesn't seem like the type of personality that can get that over, to be honest with you. But like, they gave her the Money in the Bank, which probably wasn't the right call, because I think it made everybody else in the match look stupid the way it ended. How they were all fighting up there, and she kind of just sneaks up and just takes it, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, she stole it!" But I think it was smart on their part to have her cash in quickly after the terrible decision of giving it to her, because she could have ended up having one of those Otis type runs where it's like, oh, the surprise person holds on, gets the briefcase, but holds on to it for entirely way too long, and the briefcase means absolutely nothing by the end of it, which is what happened with Otis's run. So if you already made the mistake of giving her the briefcase, I mean, I guess the best thing to do was to kind of just get it off of her quick and have her win the title quickly. But again, so she holds on to,
but she didn't need to win the title. Like,
I know, right? Like I was saying, like she hasn't even been the character that long, right, to be the champion. Like, nobody's really gotten behind the character for her to actually win it. So I'm assuming, like you said, she probably drop it quick. It's to who she drops it to is the answer. Like, the big question. I'm sorry. Like, does she drop it to Rhea? Does she drop it to Charlotte? Does Charlotte get another title reign? Like, just another. Like, she's at 11. So was the point of it to get her to 12 quickly?
Well, I think it's going to be just. It is awkward watching WWE, especially Raw. There's so much you can pull apart on it. It's like, what are you even doing here? Who's writing this? Like, get somebody who's writing this and sack them, because it's terrible. Hire anybody else. Go find somebody on the street that watched Raw in like 1998 once. They'll write a better show than this, because I don't know what they're doing. Like, for some way, they've made Bobby Lashley look weird as well. Like, they've made him seem like he got bet by Xavier Woods, then killed Kofi Kingston, then killed Keith Lee. I don't know what they're doing to Keith Lee. And then it's like, you've got break the New Day fully up, because everybody just keeps remembering them. Have a Keith Lee and Woods, like, jealousy, feud kind of thing for a little bit. Break them out, so then people like, totally forget about the New Day, bring them back in a couple of years. But it's like, what's the end goal of everything that's happening? Like you say, it's like Lesnar against Lashley would have been the best match. But now we've got Goldberg and Lashley, which I'm like, I'm not interested. Like, this isn't going to be good. It's going to be awkward. Goldberg is no good at all in the ring anymore. Like you said in the night, I was a huge Goldberg fan. I think everybody was. He was like, as you're a kid, you're like him against Austin, the two baldy people. Yeah. And then you get older and you're like, that would have been the worst match in existence. But back then you're like, and then now you're like, why is he still here? Like, it's so awkward. It's like, you know what? Let's bring out Goldberg. Nobody else to go against this guy. Let's bring him out. He's always game for a match.
Yeah, he always is. But like, funny thing, so the Keith Lee stuff, they bring him back after the mysterious, like, his disappearance was so mysterious. You never knew as to why. We heard it was medical. I don't know who the hell knows what it actually was. He comes back, he gets beat, and it's like WWE likes to do like kind of like a sleight of hand, like kind of give you this, but then when you'll end up focusing on like this one over here. So like, we give you this thing, and then you end up focusing on this one. So they gave you Keith Lee, but he's gonna get beat. But then we're gonna give you Goldberg, so you forget about Keith Lee and complain about Goldberg, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they decided to do. Like, all right, we'll bring back Keith Lee in this spot. It's kind of a throwaway. He comes back, he'll lose, but we'll bring out Goldberg immediately afterwards, so that people will kind of forget about Keith Lee losing the match. It feels like it's the whole reasoning as to why they did it like that. It was like, Keith Lee will come out, people will be happy, he's taking on Bobby Lashley, but when he loses, people are going to be upset. But we'll give him Goldberg, who they hate more, so they'll be less upset about Keith Lee, caring about Goldberg. It's like Karrion Kross, right? He was there on Monday Night Raw for absolutely no reason whatsoever, just so Jeff Hardy can debut his song again, No More Words, that people are really excited about, and he beats him, and it's like, and then it just makes no sense. Like, it obviously, and then they give you the Bud Light version of Karrion Kross. No Scarlet, no smoke, no pomp and circumstance. I mean, what are you doing at that point? It's interesting stuff, the way, especially Raw, like you said, like the guy who writes Raw just needs to be, like, the people that write Raw, because the crew of them need to be fired.
Obviously, if it was just one person, at least somebody like this guy should be sent to prison because he's making crimes against wrestling. But it's obviously going to be like 50 people that are writing this, and they're still ruining it. You think at least somebody would get a good idea. But Karrion Kross is the best example of that, man. See, on NXT on the Tuesday, they didn't even speak about it. They just ignored the fact that he was on Raw and got bet by Jeff Hardy. And then Samoa Joe's acting like he's like a big scary guy, and it's like he's just been bet. And then I love Jeff Hardy. People say like, "Oh, you want him to get put over," and I'm like, "There's a way you could put both people over. You didn't need to just didn't need to be a 2-minute match. Have Jeff Hardy get the win over Karrion Kross, but give it 6-7 minutes. Hardy hits a ref down,
or why not have Samoa Joe cost him the match?
There you go.
A continuation of the storyline, right? Like, let's say he's beating, like, let's say Jeff Hardy's being dominated by Karrion Kross. He's the monster gimmick. And then as something happens, here comes Samoa Joe. He chokes out, Karrion Kross without the referee seeing. And then here comes the Swanton, and that's the way he gets the win. It accomplishes both things. You could have a competitive match if you wanted to, and then have Samoa Joe, and then you have a continuity there, because the next night, like literally the next night after, you're gonna have Samoa Joe calling this guy out. So it's interesting. And then he says like, oh, he took his trip up to Monday Night Raw to get beat. That's all it was. Took a trip to get beat.
But I was just thinking in terms of WWE, like, we don't want Samoa Joe here anymore, but Jeff Hardy could have played like a dirty trick or something. Obviously, he put his feet up in the ropes, but like just something. Like, really, just like, where was Scarlett? Where was all the cool stuff that makes Karrion Kross? He looks cool. He's okay in the ring. He's got the look, but just where's all the cool stuff? Like, everybody likes to see when Scarlett comes out with him and they do like their weird entrance and it looks so cool, and then he just stoats out there himself being awkward.
Well, not only the fact that he has an absolutely gorgeous woman with him. So just for the mainstream, like the casual guys, like, who doesn't really watch wrestling, was like, wow, look at the woman he came out with. Like, I want to pay attention to that because she's so beautiful. And then you see him and he's like, oh, this guy's a big dude. He looks pretty cool. He's bald. He looks mean. He looks like, somebody from a movie, like, was it Natural Born Killers? I think it was the movie with Woody Harrelson. So it's like that, like, he looks like that. And then you may get somebody into the character by de facto just by seeing Scarlett with him. I mean, there's so many things that go into like the whole, the entrance, the smoke. People might see that and be like, wow, that was a pretty cool entrance. He looks pretty cool. He looks like a badass. Oh, wow, look at Scarlett. She's beautiful. Oh my God, look, he's with her. And you find out they're actually together. It's like, wow, oh, he's that guy's super lucky. And look at his wife and everything like that. It's stuff like that. Those little things on the sides that get other people. What you're going for is the people that are outside that kind of laser beam, the people that are just focused on the product. You want to get those people on the outskirts of it. And by doing that kind of stuff, like The Undertaker, a lot of people just don't even they just know The Undertaker because of the character, and they don't even watch wrestling. So it's stuff like that, like other stuff on the outside. Like, people know Steve Austin never watched wrestling. Oh, the guy, oh yeah, he drinks beer and stuff like that. It's just little things about the character that get the people outside of the hardcore fan and bring those other people in.
Man, see, try to explain that as well. Like, there's so many like hardcore wrestling. There's not like, say 5 million, 10 million hardcore wrestling fans. Outside that, nobody really cares about like Cesaro having a 5-star match. They're just interested in a story. Like, Cesaro's a wrestler, but somebody like Roman Reigns can please everybody. Somebody like Karrion Kross could, like you say, could be just for like the mainstream people. Like Austin pretty much was just to drink beer, go out there and hit a couple of people and leave. That was all he had to do, and he made a ton of money doing it. I would do the same, but I don't know, it just feels very raw. Just Raw in particular just feels very like, I don't know what we're going to be doing here at all. Like, I'm just going to be making this up as we go along, because it makes no sense. SmackDown's at least got a little bit of consistency, but even anything outside the Roman Reigns kind of stuff, there's nothing really kind of going on. Like, what is your feelings on the Usos getting the tag team belts when obviously the DUI that he just got acquitted of, by the way, obviously that was money, but the DUI thing, just, I thought it was so awkward, because it was like, you got the belt and it's like, every child that's watching this knows this guy's got a DUI because it was everywhere online.
Yeah. If he was anywhere other than the main event scene, he'd be suspended for at least 30 days, something like that. It's just the fact that it's like equivalent to like nepotism, where you kind of just like, he's like, oh, he's related to me, so I'm gonna let him get slide by. But it's just like, he's in, my prized possession, Roman Reigns' storyline. Like, he's that whole Reigns right now, everything he's doing right now that Jimmy and Jay do revolve around Reigns, which is the main event. So you can't logically you got to kind of bite the bullet and be like, yeah, I'm gonna look kind of bad with this, but I'm gonna pay this guy off, pay that guy off, and we'll kind of get it out of the way. People forget about it, everything. Because he like in all seriousness, he would have been suspended for 30 days if he was in any other position other than that main event spot with Roman Reigns.
Definitely, man. I think it's just awkward, isn't it? Like,
It's weird,
this guy just got this, and we're going to give him the belts. It's like, but can he change it? There's nobody else can fit in this, and it shows you how, as much as how many stars are on SmackDown, how weak the roster is as well. There is nobody that can replace Roman Reigns and the Usos that are right in there with him, Heyman. Nobody can replace those guys, so they can literally get away with anything. Like, Roman Reigns could just start shooting up steroids and stuff and be like, what you got to do, Sack? Yeah, I'll do what I want.
You need me to sell SummerSlam. Like, he's selling SummerSlam. That's why he gets Cena. He's going to sell Survivor Series. He's going to sell WrestleMania. So you kind of... it's like your star player. You kind of let him get away with stuff because he's the one that brings in the fans. He brings in the income. He brings in the money, the ticket sales, and all that stuff like that. And it's like, when it comes to the SmackDown tag team titles, look at this. It also plays a factor. There's really no other tag teams on SmackDown. I mean, literally, there's like 4 of them. And what else can you do? I mean, you can't really do much.
They've obviously got the greatest tag team of our generation, the Mysterios, which is terrible, man. Don't even get me started on them. I think it's NXT's right there. Send Dominic down to there and get him to work his way up. Do the story. Bring him from this WrestleMania, the one after. Get him to build all the way up. He wins belts. He gets there, wins the Money in the Bank, challenges for the belt. Maybe gets it, maybe Disney holds it for a week, whatever. But it's a story. Underdog story always sells, but no, WWE will never do that because they like their wee... whatever they have going on. I don't know. I honestly, sometimes I watch it when I do my reviews. What you guys know from my Monday Night Raw rants, it's pretty much like me just Tuesday in the morning, nobody speaks to me, like at work or my kids and stuff like that. They kind of just avoid me because they know I'll be pissed off. If it's a good, I come out like where I record and I'm like, it was a good draw. It was alright. Good day. But if it's terrible, I'm like, just don't fucking talk to me. I'm going to the gym. I fucking hate this shit. Why am I even doing this? Because it makes it so hard to make content on it as well, isn't it? Like, you watch 3 hours of Raw, and I know people, which I just found out, people just watch the clips on YouTube, and I was like, that's a fucking smart idea. I'm sitting here watching 3 hours of this, taking notes and shit, and you people are just getting the cliff notes. I'm raging. I didn't think of that, but I'm like, why? This is so pish sometimes. Like, you just watch it, it annoys you. SmackDown's better, but there's nobody else there. You can see Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, Big E. I can't really remember who else.
Well, I think even that Big E's going it seems like he's going to Raw because he won Money in the Bank. So it seems like seems like he'll go to Raw. But it's like you have Edge is like here, and then but Roman is still like all the way up here. That even Edge being so good, he can't get up there because it's Roman. I mean, like literally, the difference in just star power, even with a legend like Edge, it's astronomically different at this point. Just where Roman is at. I mean. It's tough to find somebody that hates on Roman right now. I mean, 2015 Roman, everybody hated him, right? It was more the way he was booked and the scripts they would give him to read off. But right now, everybody loves him. I mean, it's the catch-22. He's too good. He's awesome, and that's a great thing, but he's too good that it makes everybody else on the roster look like lesser than.
I love like there's like on dirt sheets or podcasts with like writers and stuff or backstage people and they're like, oh, Roman's been a bit of a dick, and it's like, of course he is. He's literally knows he's carrying this company. I'd be a dick if I was carrying what the biggest wrestling company in the world. I'd be like getting people to go get my coffee and shit. You tie my shoes, I'm not doing it. Like I'm paying everybody in here like salary, which is it's insane. Like people just forget. Like Roman, like you said, he's so good, he's so big. There's just nobody else there. There's literally no... on SmackDown, you can be like, what, Cesaro or these other guys. Try to remember who's on SmackDown apart from Roman Reigns is hard because he just eclipses everybody. You've got Edge, like he says, a legend. To Roman Reigns standards, Edge looks like a cruiserweight. I mean, nobody really cares about him. He's like, he's not going to beat him. and then it brings. Do you think Cena's going to beat Roman, or do you think what I'm hoping for is the Rock intervenes, takes out Roman, Cena gets the belt, we get the belt off of Roman, then give it to somebody else, like let Roman and Rock or whoever have a wee feud, get it away from him because he doesn't need it.
It's tough, right? So like if you're to take off, like I always ask, like, are you okay with a multi-year title run for Roman Reigns? Like if he holds on to the belt for 3 years, are you cool with that, right? Like I ask a lot of people that. So, are you cool with it? And if not, how do you take the belt off him? It's got to be in a real crazy, interesting kind of out there way. Like I heard somebody bring up to me, like, have him defend his title in the Royal Rumble. Like literally, like he's the champion going in, and if he gets eliminated, there's a new champion. You could do that. You have to do like maybe have a bunch of people like attack him or something like that. I don't like how do you get the belt off of him is an interesting thing. I don't think Cena's the guy to beat him clean because I don't know how good that would go over. I know people are excited to see Cena back because people at this point respect Cena so much that they don't hate him like they used to. They just boo him out of respect because that's like a thing to do. Similar to the Kurt Angle "You suck" chant. But I just don't think he's the guy because long term he's not going to be there that long. Past the summer, he probably won't be there past the summer because he's got other movies he's working on. So how do you take the belt off him? I don't think you can. You have to have some crazy nuts screw job way to take the belt off of him, or you just keep it on him.
I know, man. I'm just trying to think of ways to get it off him because
it's tough to find one.
You need to get it out unless you unify the titles and just give Roman that Roman Bobby Lashley would be a fantastic match.
Yeah,
unify the world titles because you don't need two because it makes no sense having a universal title and a world title because we've not even travelled the universe yet. How do you know there's not another one out there? But put them together, just have one like in the olden days when it was like a cool looking one, no like new, and just like have Roman be like this insane like I'm the champion for everywhere because I can do what I want, and just go between Raw and give him that kind of gimmick like now that Evolution, women, jets, fucking helicopters, that kind of gimmick, like just to be pure gloating. And then when somebody goes up against him, or he's always going to get bet, he goes up against somebody at Mania, they get a surprise win. That'll just elevate them to the next level. But then after that, it's like, who's there? Nobody, because WWE isn't going to build anybody because they're so bad at building stars. But it's like they've got talent, but do they have talent that could connect with like kids? Like Roman Reigns my kids love him. My partner likes watching his matches. I love watching it. It's like her mum and dad have seen his matches and they know who he is. Like they've seen like a YouTube clip. He can connect through all these generations. Does somebody like Cesaro do that, or does somebody just? There's nobody that's really connecting to the audience at the minute, apart from obviously the guy we've rabbled on about for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, right? So like they can't build any. They have more trouble building baby faces than heels, right? Because baby faces for them always tend to be kind of the same. Very just kind of just like, yeah, happy go lucky to be there. Kind of like I'm a fighting champion. Very generic. They don't have any layers to them in terms of a character. It's tough. It's like Roman is this good in part because of the Roman we had previously. The fact that he was shoved down our throats, people were booing him out of the building when he beat The Undertaker that Monday after that WrestleMania. He got booed out of the entire building for 7 minutes, a continuous boo. All that leading up to the heel turn that we never got with Cena that we always wanted is attributed to why he's so big right now. So that happened organically. Whether, and it wasn't even their intention because they wanted to push him as like the next John Cena, the babyface, the Hogan type, where he's just there smiling all the time. Kids love him, women love him. That's what they wanted. But they organically fell into the biggest star they've had, since mid-run Cena. And they don't have anybody else on the roster that's even organically or mistakenly that could happen to be honest with you. And it's a major problem for them in terms of how they're going to book their shows going forward and how they're going to book the next year out into the next WrestleMania.
Man, so coming into Impact Wrestling, right? What's your opinions on it? So for me, I like Impact. I think it has good shows. Nobody cares about it. In the grand scheme of things, nobody gives a hell. Like Kenny Omega's there with the belt. This made Impact look even stupider because this other guys came in and took the belt and nobody can take it off them. And I've got like weird like W. Morrissey. Like, why did you change Big Cassie's name to W. Morrissey? That's just a terrible name. But even if it is his real name or whatever, it's a terrible name for a wrestling character. but like there's just nothing there that kind of attracts you to it. And I think they're having, because they're so small and nobody really pays attention to them, they're having a worse issue with like characters.
Yep.
Because you've got Omega, who's like the best in the world for wrestling fans at the minute, who's in AEW and stuff like that. And there's nobody else. There's nobody that can bridge that gap. And they're just totally failing at what they're trying to do, which is so awkward to watch on a weekly basis. You've got them, like, they have good matches. X Division's good, but they're really, really failing to kind of do anything. Like, I don't know. What's your thoughts on Impact?
Impact for me, like I don't have the channel, right, to watch it. So I just watch like clips and I hear about what they do and stuff like that. I just know that the whole partnership between them and AEW is so poorly done, put together. It feels like it's just there to benefit Kenny Omega and nobody else. Because none of that Impact stuff is promoted on AEW whatsoever. Like the whole point of it was to get a smaller brand to be showcased on a larger one, so that people will be more interested to go see the smaller brand, which they haven't done whatsoever. Like the fact that I think the person I feel the worst for is Rich Swann, because he was the champion, loses to Kenny, never gets a rematch, never shows up on Dynamite asking for a rematch or attacking Kenny for that belt. Kenny doesn't even show up to to AEW with those belts, really. I think once or twice he's done it, but for the most part, he doesn't even show up with those belts. I think even with Gallows and Anderson winning the Impact titles back, I think that even sucks for Impact, even though they're Impact guys, like, because they're more prominent on AEW. And I think too, Slammiversary, I saw pictures of it in clips. It looked very empty, small, bad production. It just didn't look good visually, aesthetically. And then they do the bad part where Jay White comes out and the feed is cut because they mistimed the show, so it didn't show the whole everything that happened with Jay White being there. It's bad stuff. Now they're bringing in guys from other companies to kind of garner some excitement about their product, but it's just not really working. It's just they're seeing right now is lesser than. I think the worst thing that happened to them was AEW coming up and AEW partnering with them but not promoting them whatsoever.
Definitely, man. I agree with you. Jay White coming in as a wrestling fan, like as somebody who enjoys wrestling, I get it.
Yeah.
But as a casual fan, who cares? Like, who is this guy? Like, I don't watch. I wouldn't go out my way. So I always get my partner to watch this kind of stuff when it's like Slammiversary, and she was like, "This is kind of boring." And then that guy came out. She was like, "Who's this guy?" Like, she doesn't watch Japanese wrestling. She gets the mainstream stuff, so it's cool to get that kind of opinion. But heading to the end of the podcast, man, is first thing before we get to the last question. Yep. How do you think AEW is going to make their game? They've got so many people coming in consistently. Like, they've got all these new people, new faces coming in. They've got so many different shows, such a huge roster. Are they going to only have a couple of people on it? Is it going to go by win-losses if you get onto the PlayStation 4 version or the PS5 version of the game? What do you think they're going to do? Because what is it, just DLC? Because they've got a mobile game just now.
DLC.
They've got a mobile game which is just cheap to get money, which is so awkward. It's like you guys, you can't. Everybody knows mobile games are just keep paying to win, and user meant to be gamers. That's something that gamers hate. I'm a gamer myself. Mm-hmm. I hate pay to win games. And they've just made one. What's your game going to be like? And how the hell are you going to fit, 110, 130 people, I think they've got in the roster? Maybe even more.
Something like that, yeah. They got a lot. It's going to be tough because they're not going to show up with their first game trying to compare the roster to like the WWE games that have like 80, 90 people on it. They're probably going to pick their core guys and women, guys and girls, and then maybe bring in like all the legends will be in that thing. Like, Christian Cage, he might be gaming too late, but they may have
all
him
the
as
WWE
DLC.
Guys.
Yeah, they'll have all those guys because that's going to sell it, right? They're going to sell it. Like, these guys in this game, and they're going to have their core guys like Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Darby Allin, Kenny, the Elite guys, Mox. They're going to have all those core guys, but a lot of these guys on the side, they're not going to be in it. Like, you're not going to see Matt Sydal. You're not going to see I can't even think of guys right now, but like all these other guys that are on the roster right now, you're not going to see them in the game. They're going to have a ton of DLC. If they can get away with it, they can do a ton of DLC. But the funny thing is, like, does it go by win and loss? That'd be kind of interesting. But there's a lot of guys, like, you're going to see a lot of guys that are commercial, guys they market, guys they promote, and a lot of WWE guys, ex-WWE guys on that game. A lot of them.
It just feels awkward. It's like create a wrestler, I know the game's probably going to be good, but you're getting most of your WWE guys, and I just think, how are you going to put? Oh, sorry, you've only got 6 wins and 8 losses. You don't make the game.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But he's in it, and he's got like 9 losses. I'm sorry, I'm the guy who makes the decision. But when I remember Matt Seidel from Wrestling Society X, I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Wrestling Society X.
I've got the DVD still in there from when I was like a child, and it's just so awkward. I didn't even know he was still stoning around in wrestling. I was like, this guy, like, he must be like, he was like 20 odds when I was watching him. He must be in his 40s, so it's a bit weird. But he's not going to be in the game, definitely.
No, definitely not.
Unless they have DLC, which more than likely they will. But last couple of questions, man, is if you could have experienced any match live in history, what would it be? What would be your match that you would have wanted to be in the crowd, front row and centre, so the camera's looking right at you, so you could have cheered or booed? What's that match for you that you would have wanted to see live?
Rock Austin at WrestleMania 17.
Good one. Mine's is Rock Hogan at WrestleMania 18, just because WCW versus Rock. It would have been so cool, and I could have popped and stuff like that. But Rock Austin's a good one as well. I had Dan on last night as well. He always hits it with like 2016. I think it was 2016. No, 20. I can't remember. It must have been. I've totally forgot. He always hits it with like new stuff. Because obviously he's so young, and I'm like, I feel so old. I'm talking about like all this other stuff. And he's like, but wrestling's good. And I'm like, you don't even know. You're too young. But man, thanks for being on the show. What kind of videos would you recommend people go check out your channel first to get the kind of taste of you? Have you got anything coming up this week? What would you recommend?
So if you want to hear my opinions on the shows that happen on WWE, AEW, check out my reviews. I mean, I do them a little bit differently than a lot of people do. It's me and my brother as my co-host. We're in a virtual studio. I'm really into productions and like the production value stuff and adding like cool graphics, stuff like that. So I'm really into that. So if you're into that stuff, that's what my reviews are all about. A lot of graphics, a lot of, green screen work and stuff like that. But if you're if you don't really into the review game, I do a lot of other ones, a lot of topical videos. Like I got a Shawn Michaels biography kind of documentary where I compare the both runs of Shawn Michaels, the 90s versus the 2000s. I got I have a best of War Games, best of Hell in the Cell, and stuff like that. And opinionated videos, like my problem with AEW video, where I kind of critique AEW, and then my AEW is better than WWE video. So stuff like that. So if you're into the topical videos and opinionated, I got that for you. And if you're into the review stuff, I have that for you too as well. That with live streams of reviews and stuff like that. So I'm kind of trying to hit all angles of everything.
Man, definitely. If people haven't subscribed to you, go check it out. You're a lot more professional than me. I don't know why you'd be watching me compared to watching you. Your reviews are like structured. You have like talking points, obviously with your brother and stuff like that. I'm just shouting about wrestling myself, which is weird. I love doing your live streams. There's so much content on your channel. That goes for everybody that you see in your live streams. Go check everybody out. Support the wrestling community. It's really a cool community at the minute to be part of. Thanks for being on, man. So what I'll do is I'll end the show here and I'll tell you the aftercare information.
Thank you.